Lynn, while I have you here, I want to talk a good bit here about video. I mean, you have invested a lot of time and energy into creating some good, solid videos. So it's not only the articles and your pictures that you're putting out there, but you're actually creating videos. Now, was video something that, I know you've got your backgrounds in journalism and whatnot, was that something that came pretty easy for you? Did you have to study up on that?
I had to study up on it a little bit. My degree 30 years ago from college was in broadcast communications. So, you know, I have a background in it, but it was really rusty. I mean, the only thing I've been doing for the last, 30 years with a camcorder is taking video of my kids or something,
Right.
So I'd never used video editing software before, so yeah, I did have to study up on that, and I had to refresh my memory on lighting techniques and things like that. But, I had sort of a basic knowledge, but even if you don't, there's a lot of ways to learn this stuff if you want to do it yourself.
Right. A lot of merchants contact me and they know that they need to do video. They're very intrigued by the idea of having unique videos, but frankly they're just kind of intimidated by the prospect of having to do that themselves. They don't want it to look cheeseball. They want it to look, authoritative and professional, and they think either it's going to take a lot of money to do that or a lot of talent, and they're not sure if they have either. But you've been able to start kind of from a groundswell notion and get that going pretty quickly, correct?
Yeah, well, I already had a video camera, but it wasn't anything fancy or professional. It was a Sony Handycam, sort of like the one pictured here, very similar actually, that I bought maybe, I don't know, like 8 or 9 years ago something, to take video of my kids. And it's digital and it has HD capabilities, so it may not have the huge amount of megapixels that the most modern ones have, but it was good enough, and that's kind of where I started with. But you don't need to invest a lot of money in equipment. But if you're going to wind up, if you don't have much and you want to buy stuff, there's a few things as kind of outlined here on the slide that you really have to think about. Now, to actually do the video, of course, you need a video camera, but you could also use a flip cam. I don't know if they're still making those. I know they discontinued, at least one manufacturer discontinued a few years ago. But a flip cam, a video camera, a still camera that takes video at a decent resolution, or even a smartphone like an iPhone with a decent amount of megapixels would be great. But you want to think about getting the highest resolution, the highest definition possible that you can, because if you shoot something in low def, it's not going to look that good. And if you're, that kind of defeats the whole purpose of putting a video out there, because then you'll have something that looks kind of crappy and people think your business is crappy, so you want to try to keep it high def if you can. One thing that a lot of people ignore is a tripod, and I think it's really an essential piece of equipment, because no matter how much image stabilization you have on your device, it's still going to end up looking shaky if you don't use a tripod. And there are tripod mounts out there for iPhones and other smartphones, so don't let that limit you. Then when it comes to lights, you really want to understand, go to YouTube, look up some videos or some resources online about how to light video, because lighting video well is important. And there are many inexpensive lighting sets that you can find online that use daylight fluorescent or LED lights, and those stay cool. They don't get hot to the touch. You're not hot sitting underneath them. And they have a nice natural light as opposed to a yellow light that you're going to get from a regular light bulb. And then finally, sound is really important, because if you use the mic that's built into your camera or smartphone, you're going to sound echoey and like you're in a tin can. So get a little clip-on mic, a lavalier mic, for talking in front of the camera. And if you're doing voiceovers for your videos, get a decent USB mic like the Blue Snowball that we show here, or something like that. I use a Blue Yeti. Blue is a great brand for microphones, so I highly recommend them.
Lynn, we've actually got a question that segues right into the next slide, which is what software do you use? And so talk to us about that.
Yeah, so post-production is just as important as shooting your video. You need decent video editing software to make everything tie together and look good. So the most basic thing is iMovie. You know, if you use a Mac, I think it's already built in. And that's, you know, pretty decent. It gives you some capability. What I use is Final Cut Pro 10, otherwise known as Final Cut Pro X, because it's more robust than iMovie. It has a lot of cool built-in things. If you're a Windows user, I understand that Sony Vegas, like Las Vegas, is very good for Windows. I think it's probably not as robust as Final Cut Pro, but apparently in the Windows realm it's very good. Do you think that answers that question?
Absolutely. Let's talk about these screen grabs here. This is your About Us video. Talk to us about, we couldn't do the actual video, it didn't come through on the webinar, but talk to us about this, Lynn.
Yeah. So these are some shots from our About Us video, and my husband is my partner in doing this, so he and I spent a couple of hours setting up and shooting it in our living room, because our business, even though it's been around for about 10 years, is still very small. It's me and my husband and our fulfillment company, basically.
Right.
So it's not like we have a big office or employees or whatever, so we're pretty much doing this ourselves. There you see sort of this, in the upper left-hand corner, sort of the title slide that I created, and that little animated video thing is just something that I pulled right out of Final Cut Pro. It was really easy to just use that and create a title on the bottom, and I use that in all of our videos just as a, something that is consistent from video to video. Then next to that you see me, kind of sitting there smiling, talking about something, and I just bought a pop-up background and lit it behind me. There's a lot of clutter around me. You can't see that. You want to set everything up, make sure it looks good, make sure it's lit well, and all the titles and everything, the watermark, that goes in afterward.
Right.
Then in the lower left, there's a shot from our warehouse, and that's kind of an interesting story because our warehouse is across the country. We're in California and they're in Pennsylvania, and they have certain privacy rules, so I couldn't go there and shoot. I couldn't even hire a production company to go there and shoot. So if I wanted to show the warehouse and show our packages being shipped, which I thought was really important, what I did was I went to borrowlenses.com, and I had a video camera shipped to my warehouse manager, and I told him what I wanted him to shoot, and he shot it. And then, a lot of the footage wasn't all that great, but I used bits and pieces of it and incorporated it into my video. And then finally, on the lower right, we see this map that says, more than 70,000 customers worldwide, etc. And so this was actually a prefab animation that I pulled from, I think it was either gettyimages.com or shutterstock.com. And that's a great resource because sometimes in your videos you might have something you don't know what to put there. Video is a very obviously visual medium, so you don't want to stay on one thing too long. It gets boring. You need to have some movement, something in there. So when I'm talking about how we have all these customers worldwide, I found this great animated map with all these pins that pop up, and it was perfect because it looks like we had it done especially for us, but we didn't.
Well, Lynn, I want to transition here into the resources. Walk us through this real quick.
Yeah, so these are some of the resources if you're doing it yourself or putting together equipment maybe for people, employees to do something for you. These are really great places to go to get some training and to get equipment. The two main sites that I use for equipment are Adorama.com and bhvideo.com. They have lots and lots of great equipment of all different grades. They have reviews, so you can really see, what would fit your budget. And I think both of these places you can call and talk to someone about your needs, and they can make recommendations for you. And then cowboystudio.com is one of a few different online resources for lighting. They have inexpensive light kits. And I didn't actually buy my equipment from them, but from a company that's very similar to them. But, you can put together individual lights or sets. They have sets that you can buy, so it doesn't have to break the bank. I mean, you can spend a lot of money on equipment. You don't have to, though, to get something that meets your needs.
Right.
I wound up getting a teleprompter because with my background and everything, I knew that I'd probably choke in front of the camera and it would take forever to get these things shot. So I invested in a teleprompter and I did a lot of research. And this company, Telemax Teleprompters, they're terrific. They have good entry-level teleprompters. You can get one for just around $1,000. And that was the most expensive thing that I bought, was
Right.
the teleprompter. But it paid for itself already. And then, if you don't know what to do, how to get started, Autorama.com has a great learning center. There's also this website called Wistia that has videos for learning how to do different techniques. Vimeo.com has their video school. There's NYVS.com, and all over YouTube. There's all kinds of resources. So finally, training with Final Cut Pro. I didn't know Final Cut Pro at all, so I got the software and took a look at it and said, okay, what do I do now? So the two resources that I used were a video training class called Introducing Final Cut Pro 10, Learn by Video to Brain. That was a terrific sort of jump start. And then from there, I used the Diana Waynand book, which is very highly recommended in Amazon, for actually getting into the product deeper and learning step-by-step how to use the different parts of it. It took me about 2 weeks, dedicating about an hour to an hour and a half every day, doing another lesson in the Diana Waynand book. And it really paid off because by the end of those 2 weeks, I knew exactly what to do with Final Cut Pro 10, and boom, I made my first video, and it was pretty painless, actually.
Bill,
Yeah.
that's a lot of really good information, Lynn. I appreciate you putting this together for our attendees. What's your take on all this? I mean, you interact with a lot of merchants. I mean, is this for everybody? What's your take on what you're hearing here?
Video, to me, is the most important thing a merchant can put on their site. Not only will it increase stick time on their pages and give people multiple reasons to buy, perhaps spit out a coupon code or two if they go through the whole video, but just the organic search value on YouTube is great. It's still fairly straightforward to rank reasonably well on YouTube. So yeah, 100%.